All right. Well, I'll call to order this school board meeting. We want to welcome everybody here. We enjoy people coming to our meetings. Our Madam Chair tonight is feeling under the weather, so she's going to join us via the phone. So if she has any comments, she can feel free to question or comment. So right now we'll get the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Perkins will lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McGraw, can you please share the screen, and I think if you want to click the board.
You should be able to share.
All right, there we go. And if you could clear off that invite. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Nedder, for the pledge. So we have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
A second.
A second by Tyson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we need the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a
Mr.
motion?
Schmidt, we need to make sure that Mrs.
Oh.
Cherry is voting since you're the
Oh.
one that's
Okay,
chairing.
all right.
So ask Mrs. Cherry. for
Yeah,
her vote.
Mrs. Cherry, do we have a approval of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on. Thank you, Carrie, for letting us know
Yeah,
that.
now that you're acting as chair, you do not have to vote, but you can wait for Mrs. Chair to
Okay.
vote.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, now we need a motion for the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
First I need to ask
Oh.
Mrs. McGraw if she made the change. I
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
see it on here.
I must not have uploaded it, but I will get it uploaded.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So if that change is made, then I move that we approve the meetings, the minutes of the meetings from January 21 and the board work meeting from February 9.
And point of clarification, was the changes, was it
It
typos?
was a date.
A typo and a date. We just wanted to make sure it wasn't.
Second, the February 9 minutes have January 21 on all.
Oh, just the wrong date
Right.
was,
Yep.
was on it, is all.
It just
Okay,
needs to be fixed.
okay. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. So now we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, for that, and I'll be able to take some time here. Actually, we did not have this republished to upload the superintendent minute, did we? Or did we?
Do that really fast.
All right, well, she's going to do that. I'm going to pull it up on Google.
I saw that though, your profile.
Yeah,
Notice that, huh?
Seen that was great.
let me get this pulled up here. I apologize.
Just had to send in the information.
Let's see that published. There it is. Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw.
You're welcome.
We could, I just share screen again. Perfect. Now I have my superintendent report on there. As you can see, it was worth the wait because you can see Vice Chair Schmidt's face right there. But from the superintendent, February 12th at our teacher professional day, I just wanted to report to the board that on that professional day, I did have a district-wide meeting with the teachers. We went over legislative updates. One of those updates was along the advanced professional endorsement. That's just with the discussion on the career ladder and the funding from the State Department. Our teachers need to be aware of the things that they need for the professional endorsement. Also, LMS, Learning Management System, I'll talk about that. I just updated them on that. And then we also had our second round of COVID vaccines, which I know you two were right there with us on that. We also rolled out our Safe Schools training, CPR, student mental health, youth suicide awareness, prevention, postvention, AEDs, and first aid. For the school board, just wanted to, for the information of those watching or here in attendance, that our school board did meet on February 9th for a work meeting. We went over maintenance projects, calendar, policy, levy, and bond discussions. And while we're on the school board, I have here that Willie was highlighted in the
Slate magazine.
Slate magazine, which is the ISBA magazine. So you're looking through there, you see a familiar face. I do have on that Willie Schmidt profile there. So if anybody at home wants to go and look at that, you can pull it up, and it will have the entire article on there. But thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for representing West Jefferson and being on not only serving as vice chair here on our board, but also as the Region 6 vice chair. So double duty for you.
Yep. Could I make one comment, please?
Absolutely.
The picture on the bottom of the page is with a group of high school students, and we had them go down to take a student tour down at ISU, and their bonus was to go to the car show afterwards in the Chrome of the Dome and the Holt Arena.
Yeah.
And so this was several years ago, but this was kind of the start of that school campus tours, and I think it's been very successful. I think the kids really learn a lot. They find out that going to college is not above their heads, that it's doable. And so it's a nice thing that we can get the kids on the college campuses.
And it doesn't hurt that there are a lot of fancy cars down there, right, Willie?
No, they like to look at all them cars. Yeah, the car in the very back, the gold color, that was my high school car.
Really?
Very first car, I still have it. How many people can say they still have their first car?
Well, Mr.
Mr. Soderquist.
Soderquist in the audience. Yeah.
Mr. Soderquist.
And he's still driving it here.
Mr. Soderquist and me are the oddballs.
So thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, for being part of that. Another thing, PA meeting, we had a PA meeting on February 3rd. Just for everyone's information, we discussed calendar, levy, bond, safety input, teacher support units, and had a Q&A session where the parents brought up some concerns about cell phones during that meeting as well. Just as an update on finance, the JFAC committee has not taken any action on the fiscal year 21 or 22 budget. So everything happening at the legislature, we're still waiting to see what that will play out before we can make any decisions moving forward. We probably don't anticipate having any final word on that probably till the end of March, 1st of April. That's usually when it was. And if you remember last year where we hit COVID and things got strung out, we didn't get our financial information until the middle of May, which was really a month and a half late, because that's when we start building our budgets, is in April. But we had everything pushed back to the middle of May. And so keep our fingers crossed that things will turn out for us well on that. Our technology department, as of late, we have adopted the learning management system. We'll talk about that in the action items in more detail. Maintenance, grounds, and custodial. We did have our work meeting. Mr. Soderquist came and presented some summer projects with the board during that work meeting. But they've also been really busy installing the interactive monitors. And here are just a couple pictures of those monitors. The one on the left would be Mr. Writing's classroom. And the one on the right is Mrs. Burtonshaw's math classroom. And I was asking the kids and visiting with them, and they really like the clarity on these new monitors. much better than, the technology is up and improved more than the overhead projectors. If we have a brand new projector, they're still pretty good, but we have some projectors that have really met their lifetime on there. So thank you to Mr. Soderquist. It's not easy to go in and do all of these, but their department is doing a great job of getting those in.
Is every classroom going to have that?
We will have one, we have purchased one for every classroom on all campuses, but it's gonna take some time throughout the summer, but little by little, they're able to get in and start cranking away on them. So. The food service, Mrs. Ward has received another grant, and this one is for $8,000. It's been rewarded to purchase a point of sale, POS, just want to clarify, it's point of sale, meal planning and inventory software, and really appreciate her and all that she does for that. Transportation, we'll be talking about each year where we have the option to buy a new bus. We'll talk about that during the action items. Elementary schools, I've invited Mrs. Horakami to come in and give a report to the school board on her art program. I also saw, because I do have a student in Mrs. Horakami's class, there's an art field trip planned on Friday. I'll throw that in there of next week. But if we want to invite Mrs. Horakami, if you wouldn't mind coming over to the podium, and I will pull up your presentation that you have. And just go ahead and direct me on this one in any way you need to.
Okay.
On that one.
So first of all, we'd really like to thank the Ed Foundation and the school board for supporting us and getting supplies for the 5th and 6th grade art classes. It's been a lot of fun. It's been interesting. So if you want to go ahead and go to our first slide, some of the things that we have worked on is we looked at our art and space. I didn't have any examples of the kids, but for the students to realize that you need to use your whole paper and understanding how to make things fit is what we kind of worked on there. So they all did their names, and they all did an elephant project, and we had some really good elephants. I wish I'd have taken some pictures of those, but so they're learning about how they need to use space in their art projects. If you want to go ahead and go up to the next.
Absolutely.
And then we did our self-portraits. That's not one, but it's an example of a self-portrait that would look really good.
Those were our kids right there.
So here's our 5th grade. And the thing is even though maybe some of them didn't look exactly like the student, there were parts. You could see their personality. You could see them. So
can you guys see my?
Were you going to zoom in on your son there?
This is 6th grade?
This is 5th grade. This is a 5th grade.
Right there, isn't this one right
That
here?
one's Shad's. Yes, that is Shad's.
That's my top right where you see the. Yeah.
It does look like him a little bit, doesn't it? And if you'll go up to the 6th grade, and they can see the 6th grade and some of their self-portraits. Wow. He could be one of these right down here on the bottom, on this left-hand side. But I did have 4 boys that were on a different board, and so I didn't put that picture on there. So you'll have to have him show it to you. Okay, and if you want to go ahead and scroll up. Then we started learning about color. They all got to make a color wheel. And if you go ahead up, our first painting project was an O'Keeffe flower project. And so they're supposed to have a zoomed in on their flower. And we had some really good works. You can see there that some of them did, well, most of them did really well. And we also put, if you go up one more, this is our 5th grade. A lot of the students, we also afterwards put pastels on top. If you look in the top left-hand corner, the one with the red ribbon, that young man put in a lot of pastel on the left side of his flower, you see, and it really made a difference in how it looked and gave it some dimension. So they did a really good job on that, I feel. And then if you go up again, we just did monochromatic. So we only were allowed to work with one color doing a snowman since we're in the middle of snow. And this is some of our 6th grade. I believe that's this one is our 6th grade. And here's some of our 5th grade. And so they only could choose from brown, black, or blue. And so we had some good things, good ways of expressing themselves. And is that our last one?
That
I
is.
think it is. So I also, right now, we're working on still life. So I brought you a few examples if you'd like to see. This is a 6th grade starting. They're still working on them. These are in progress. So this is what they're working from, a photo. And then here's another 6th grade. And this is a new student from Mexico and doesn't speak any English, but
Still life.
she's doing a really good job. A few examples if you'd like to see. This is a 6th grade starting. They're still working on them. These are in progress. This is what they're working from, a photo. And then this is another 5th grade. 6th grade. So we have some talented, like necessarily the best. I'm just pulling some and where they're at. This is another 5th grader.
Mrs. Harper, we have some technical difficulties with the audio, so let's just hold on for
You
a
want me to
second.
wait?
Looks like it's echoing.
Let me turn this one down all the way.
These are in progress. This is what they're working from, a photo.
Go all the way down.
And this is another 5th
Is
grader.
there a mute button?
So we have some talented, necessarily the best. I'm just pulling some and where they're at.
All right.
Okay. And here is a 5th grade. And they're just working from a photograph. So one more 5th grade I brought. Again, they're working from photographs. So
Wow.
they're really learning how to put in, I'm trying to help them get in where they're putting in the really dark. A lot of them were like very all the same tone, and so I'm trying to help them get in different hues of darkness and light. So it's looking good. I think we'll have some really good ones from that. And my plan is to do one more month of art in the new trimester. So we can do a couple more projects, but thank you so much. Appreciate it. Do you have any questions?
The kids, they seem to be enjoying it, don't they?
I think most of them are, yeah.
And I remember when I talked to you at the Ed Foundation meeting, and I said to you, can you take just an ordinary person with no artistic ability and teach them to be an artist? And you said,
Wow.
yes, I can. And I really can see it now. And my grandson said to me, I have no artistic ability, but I got a blue ribbon on the flowers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
He does. And he's working, I didn't bring his sketch. He's working on one of the still lifes also, and he's doing really well on it. So that's not necessarily true, but there are a few students that are saying, I can't even do anything. But then, I help them a little bit, show them what they need to do, and they're doing something with it. They're doing more than they thought they
Well,
could.
that's
So,
good for all of their self-confidence.
yeah.
Good for self-esteem.
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, no,
I'm
thank
Really
you.
pleased about it.
Being on the Ed Foundation, it's really satisfying for me to see that these funds help the students in the classroom so much. It's really, really worth it.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, and we have enough supplies. It'll be enough for next year, and it'll last for a while. So that's really great.
That'll be enough for another year. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Horicom.
Thank you, Mrs. Harkami, for all your hard work and working through our technical difficulties, so to speak.
Looks like we got through them, didn't we? So, public comment, we don't have any green papers, so it looks like we can bypass that.
Well, Mr. Schmidt, I'm not completely finished with the superintendent
Oh,
report yet.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm rushing you a little bit too much, huh?
Mrs. Horikami is finished with her spot.
Oh,
She's just
okay.
part of the superintendent
Oh.
report. So there, so, wanted to visit about K through 8 building procedures within the school. And so I did share with our school board in our safety meeting briefly on this, but I wanted to present during board meeting to talk about some K through 8 building procedures that we want to do with cell phones. There were some concerns that came up during our POM meeting, other concerns that Mr. Harrelson and I have had throughout the year. And so we are going to start a new K through 8 cell phone procedure starting Monday. At the end of this meeting, I will be sending out an Ed Leo message to all parents and students and with this information. Let's see, the cell phone procedures will follow. This will be the information that will be going out. That starting on Monday, March 1st, K through 8 students will not be allowed to have cell phones in the hallways, classrooms, or during lunch or recess. Students in grades K through 8 will only be allowed to use their cell phones after receiving permission from a teacher or staff member. Students must keep their cell phones out of sight while on school grounds. They may leave them in their pockets, but we recommend that they stay in backpacks or their lockers. Teachers and staff will confiscate cell phones that are visible and take them to the office. Students may pick them up at the end of the day. If a pattern of cell phone violations develops, parents will be required to pick the phone up at the end of the school. So rationale for this, just for the school board and for the parents, after hearing about some of the things that students have shared via cell phones in our elementary school and junior high, I really am really concerned, and I want to take action immediately. One of the biggest issues is that students using their data plans bypass the district's filtered network and can access social media outlets, including pictures and videos of content that they share with their peers. District policies that support this from the district level are 3664, and that's one that we will vote on today. Personal electronic communication devices are not to be used during class instructional time unless directed by the teacher. That's one area right there that I will be reinforcing with all of the teachers K through 12, not just K through 8, that in order for cell phones really to be used in the school, the teacher needs to say, now is the time to get your cell phone out and use it for this. We shouldn't have students with their cell phones out just willy-nilly in a classroom unless the teacher says, this is what we need to use it for. And so 3270 states that the students must use the district's filtered network for all online activities on school grounds. When students are bringing their cell phones, we cannot monitor or govern any of this or ensure safety for anybody if they are using their data plans from home. Students may not disrupt the learning atmosphere, educational programs, school activities, or others' rights. That's directly in our district policy. And right now, the learning atmosphere, school activities, and especially that last one, the rights of other students, are being infringed upon because we are unable to completely monitor this. And so based on these policies, the guideline that schools may enact stricter procedures to support and enforce district policies. That's why we're going to be moving on this. I've already talked to Mr. Harrelson. We visited with staff. Students are starting to be taught about this, but tonight an Ed Leo will be sent out to parents concerning this. I recognize that some convenience will be lost for parents. There are some parents that feel that they must text and communicate with their children throughout the school day. They're welcome to let their kids bring them to school, but we have to protect the rights of all kids by not allowing content to be shared that we cannot control. I put on here the elementary and high school offices landlines. You can still call and give messages. Communication watches that text and call will still be allowed. What we're really concerned about is devices that can stream content and video that cannot be monitored. My primary role as superintendent is to have a safe learning environment for the children of the school district. And I feel that without taking action, I'm unable to provide such an environment. And that's how strongly this action is not in response just to one situation. So I don't want anybody out there thinking, oh, one thing happened and all of a sudden everything's been fine. And now Superintendent Williams has snapped and he's just going to go radical on this one. These are things that have been building over years and years in the district as I communicated with administration. But the major disciplinary concerns were either law enforcement has been involved with, major concerns that administration has brought to my table, not only this year, but last year. Nearly 100% of those have had issues or connections to communication or content through phones. And so because of that, this has been a concern of mine for some time, and I feel like I can no longer wait to implement it. And I really ask the parents of the community to support us in this. We thank you in advance for helping. I know that I've had a lot of support already from parents that I've talked to. But I get that it will be inconvenient on some levels. I get that some kids are really gonna fight about this, but I feel very strongly that this is something that we're going to do. So this will be going out. I don't know, comments by the board.
May I ask, why it's K-8 and not K-12?
The only reason right now is the issues right now that we're seeing are in the elementary.
Okay.
This is something that we could look at in the future. As kids grow older, we want them to have more responsibility. I don't want to create a situation where we are completely taking away every freedom and right away from kids. Kids can drive cars. They should be able to utilize this, but I do want our teachers to look at 36 or 3264 a little bit more intently and be able to guide those students in, is this phone really an educational tool or come on, like.
No,
But,
it's more of a communication tool.
And
They have a computer. Everybody
Yeah,
has a laptop.
and so those are things that we need to look at as a school, but as of right now, this is the chunk we're gonna bite off right now. We're gonna be able to bite off the K-8 chunk right now, and we'll monitor the high school. We'll monitor and see, and if this is something that's positive and really works well, potentially it could be extended, but that's gonna be with a little bit more input from teachers, administration, and parents.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on this or comments? All right, I'm looking at the Zoom. Mr. H, can you swing that camera a little bit? Mrs. Perkins is not going to be able to be seen in it. Report on our secondary schools. Mr. McDonald has taken a group that received a mastery-based grant, and they are visiting Columbia and Nampa high schools tomorrow. So Mr. McDonald, Mrs. Bell, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Guimar are in the Boise Valley, probably heading there tonight, and they'll be visiting with the school staff there to be able to ask them questions on these schools that have been a little bit further along in the mastery-based procedure than what we have been. And so they'll be able to get some ideas and bring back and share on that. And I'll be able to report next time on that. Extracurricular, our junior high boys, just finishing up their regular season. Mrs. Horikami shared her boys on the 7th grade team. The 7th grade team won tonight, and the 8th grade team is still playing as this meeting has been going on. 8th grade has their tournament on Saturday. Mrs. Parker has a band, orchestra, and guitar concert next Tuesday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. So you're invited to come to that if you would like to. Our girls and boys basketball seasons have completed. Our girls were 2nd place in district. They lost to New Plymouth in the play-in game. Our boys won their first district game during the district playoffs, and they ended up being 4th in the district. Thank you to the coaching staff for their hard work and dedication. Really appreciate all that they do. Just an update with COVID this year, we've done a lot of new things. The Nfhs broadcast system, that was one that came out, and luckily we were able to work through some of the kinks early on with some of the technology issues. Great thanks to Mr. Hansen, Mr. John Hansen, for helping us get our broadcast system set up. For Mr. Soderquist for helping run lines around and making that happen so quickly. It really, people were asking, well, how popular and how good was this program? Because I know that we had some initially saying this is bad, you should be doing it a different way. But we had in the games during the winter season, 13,415 people viewed live broadcasts when you add that up. And so you can see on the actual report, I do have the breakdown on the winter sports picks a lot on the different views. I'm not going to go into that during this one, but our top game was the girls' district game against Firth, the second one. We had 716 people watching that live. That didn't count the 40% capacity we had in the gym. And the top on-demand game was the girls' game previous to that with the 3-point winning shot that Carly Johnson made. We had 488 people go back and look at that. So I'm hoping that with the Nfhs broadcast system, after we've been in their contract in their third year, they say that they will give us a kickback from those that I don't know about watching the games, but it might be based on this. I haven't had a chance to look at that since it's a couple of years out. But this is also something that we might be able to look for potential advertising slots too. If somebody wants to say, hey, wow, you had over 700 people watching the game from here, maybe we can have some local advertisers be interested in that, because we can go with specific numbers to them. And it's been a lot of fun broadcasting those games. It's been great. Wrestling state tournament is Saturday. The boys will leave, tomorrow is Friday, they'll be leaving tomorrow. At the 120 Cameron Sauer, 145 Bronson Kimbrough, 152 Jose Lemus, 160 Tegan Hansen, and he was the district champion. 170 Jason Buxton, typo on that one, I apologize, Jason. 182 Cameron Wright, and 195 Josh Reyes. So good luck to our wrestlers this week. Last night, Mr. Packer's Scholastic team had a competition here at West Jefferson, and thanks to a lot of the teachers and staff members that went and volunteered. You can see the different names that we have there: Christina Hawker, Hiram Spencer, Haley Belknap, Riker Babcock, Anna Parker, Jetty Harrelson. Is that the real name, Mr. Harrelson? Yes, it is. Bailey Cottle, Emma Sauer, Lily Sauer, Melanie Babcock, Jaya Babcock, Ethan Sweeter, Ethne Schaefer, Darren Grover, Porter Westover, Canyon Tolman, Jackson Van Epps, Jason Erickson, Ryan McGraw, Lucas Hillman, and Maylee Allen. And here's just a couple of the different groups. It was really fun. This was the first time I've been able to go. If you've never been to one, it's kind of exciting. There's a timer that goes off. The teams go against each other, answering questions. They buzz in. If they get the question correct, they have a bonus question. The one that I got to watch, it was neck and neck until like the last minute. And then, unfortunately, the other team was able to answer it, and then they stalled. Strategy. There's still strategy in this. They stall on that and wait until it kills it. So really proud of our different athletes. We have a lot of things going on. School board, I know my superintendent report went a little bit longer where we had Mrs. Horakami coming in, but a lot of great things going on here in the school district.
You forgot to mention this one. We forgot to put that in.
Oh, we did forget the girls' state wrestling on that as well. I know I talked about that in my different things, but we had 3 girls wrestlers. They had a state tournament that went, and so proud of them as well. So Mr. Vice Chair, that's all I have. Any questions on the?
I didn't mean to cut you off. But you had a really good superintendent's report. So no public comment, so now we can go to the consent agenda. So accounts payable. Do we have any questions or comments on that? Okay, then we can go down to the financial report. No questions or comments?
Are we able to hear Mrs. Cherry still? Or should we turn that down?
Mrs. Cherry?
I'm here.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And personnel.
He was just asking about all of those and then.
I think he was asking about
Just
questions.
individually, if there was any questions on either one of them. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Vice Chair, make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We'll move on to action items.
Right, Mr. Vice Chair, Action item 4.1, our reading intervention update and K-3 curriculum addition proposal. So I've invited Mr. Johnson to come and give a follow-up report on our intervention, and I'll invite him to come up to the front. Mr. Helson, if you can move that camera on, Mr. Johnson. And there you go. Mrs. Perkins wants it off of her. And Mr. Johnson, just let me know. I need to zoom in or anything else on this one.
No. All right, well, to start off, I am just excited to be here. I'm excited to come and tell you, I told you I'd come back sometime and tell you the updates. So I'm excited to tell you the updates of 95% and the reading intervention and what it's done. So if you want to go on to the next one. So this just shows quickly kindergarten through 5th and 6th grade, just some of our goals and where the students are at and where they were before. So looking at kindergarten, we wanted 90% of our students passed skill 1 and 60% of our students passed skill 2. Skill 1 is just letter recognition and knowing the sounds of those letters as well. And we started out at the beginning, we didn't really test them. We wanted to make sure they got those foundations first. So they were at 0%, but now we have 53% of our students who have already passed that skill. And then if you look at skill 2 covers more of the short vowels. And in that skill, same thing, we're up to 22% as of right now that have passed that skill already. And we want to get to still to 60%. In 1st grade, if you look at that, skill 5 is the long vowel sounds. And in skill 5, we want 65% of our students pass that skill at the end of the school year, and we're already at 61%.
And why is it 65%?
Why is it 65%? Honestly, it's because we weren't sure exactly where the students would be at when they first started because of all the COVID. And so we wanted this, most of the students, the majority of them. So this was a goal that was set between us and the teachers as well.
And Mr. Johnson, don't you think that after we finish this year, it will give us because this is our first full year with it, we'll be able to adjust our goal next year to be higher if it needs to be.
So they're already pretty close to it, so I think they're gonna succeed it. But in 2nd grade, we have 70% past skill 6. Skill 6 goes into more of the vowel teams and it gets a little bit more advanced in their phonics. But we're already at 62.5% of the students that have passed skill 6 in that grade. In 3rd grade, same thing, we want 70% past skill 9. Skill 9 goes through all the basic and the advanced skills, and they're just about to enter into the multi-syllable skills. But we start out with 30% of the students and we're already at 50%. In 4th grade, we wanted all of the students by this grade to be tested out of the phonics skills so that they can get more of the comprehension and vocabulary. And we started out with only 3%. That means that we had 62%. Oh, sorry, that was 5th grade, sorry. We had 3% that were tested out at the beginning of the year, and now we're at 66.6% that have tested out.
Like that's
amazing.
That is amazing.
So they're doing awesome. And same with 5th and 6th grade, we were at 38%. That's the one that we had 62% of the students that still needed phonics skills at the beginning of the year. And now they're at 15%.
That are left.
So,
and this is something that with this program where when we started the year and we looked at the very beginning, and you can see how low this first column is on all of them, where COVID really impacted the kids. And also we'll be looking at the ICE station scores coming in here. It was, we're so fortunate as a district to have been able to get this program when we did, to be able to have professionals like Mr. Johnson and the team, but it's not just Mr. Johnson. I know you're awesome. Don't get a big head, just walk out of here. But our teachers, here's the one thing that Mr. Johnson shared with me earlier is our teachers, and he'll talk about this a little bit more, from the get-go last year, even before we hired Mr. Johnson, our teachers were so excited and willing to use this program. And these numbers right here really are amazing. Like, there's still always work to do. And there's gonna be other measures that might show us a little bit lower. But this is such an accurate measure of, do our kids have the fundamental reading skills? And without this program, this isn't just a testing program. This is a teaching program. And that's why the kids are getting where they're at. So thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'll let you continue.
No, you're good. So ultimately, like Mr. Williams said, they're making so much progress, and I'm excited to share this information because I wish I could take the credit for it, but I know that this is because the teachers are invested in it. They're the ones that are doing all the work with them, so it's been incredible. If you want to go on to the next one, this is their, I can't really see it up there, sorry.
Yeah.
You may have to zoom out a little bit, but
That better?
yeah, this is their iStation overall reading scores. So these scores, and actually maybe go down just a little bit.
Yeah, right there.
So these are from August and a comparison from August to January. Obviously, we had more students move in, but we went from 43% of the students above grade level to 57% of the students are above grade level. We went from 33% of the students below grade level to 19%, but we also, on grade level, we stayed at 24%, but we also had a lot of students that moved in, and that's why the numbers are different.
Yeah, can I so this is a moving target throughout the year.
Yes.
The skills get harder throughout, whereas on the last one that we looked at, we have a set target that we're going for, and we're gonna be able to hit it.
I'll explain February. Is that what your question
Yeah,
is?
explain
So
February.
in February, that is a month that they're not required to take iStation. Some teachers do give the iStation tests, but not all of them do. We don't do it every single month. So the next one is in March. So in March, all the students will take it. So that's why the number is so low in February, is because not every student took it.
Can you talk a little bit more on why the iStation scores might not be as accurate compared to the Reading 95?
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that. I don't know how much you want me to go into that, but
Briefly, like summarize.
briefly, this is their overall reading score. It incorporates a lot of things. One that in my opinion, isn't the most accurate is probably the fluency. I think you can get a better accurate of their fluency when they're speaking. For example, in iStation, they go through and they read, and then once they've read it, they click on it, and you have students that will just click. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that part, I don't look at as, is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah.
A brief. So there's things that I love about the iStation, and there's other things that I don't love.
And we're happy to have the people that have moved in, but a handful of our kiddos that have moved in have come from other states that have not had schooling since last March.
So they're probably behind then, aren't they?
And so when you look at the drop from 57 to 53.
And you'll see a lot of that when we look at the other graphs in fourth grade especially.
Yeah.
But they're still improving. But here is their overall reading. And if you look at kindergarten, I love looking at this one. Our low students who were below grade level are now above grade level, which is awesome. What the program really is working. They're making so much progress, which is what we love to see. And then if you go back a little bit, if you look at between first grade, second grade, you're seeing similar. They may not be above grade level, but our students that were below are at grade level now in those grades.
Yep.
So
you can see first grade.
And then down is
second grade.
Second and third.
One thing I like Mr. Johnson about this, is the trend lines are all, they're all moving up.
They're making lots of progress.
K through 3.
Then if you look, this is where fourth grade is a little bit straighter. I think ultimately we've talked about that, but I think they had a ton of students move in fourth grade, both here and out in Hamer. Anyways, so I think that's part of it. If you look at
this test
November,
right here, it will also bring it down because you look at the last one that we have, it's it's
Mhm.
it's trending there. It hasn't moved the trend line, but anytime you have an outlier like that, sometimes it's going to throw it all off. But
And that happens, and I remember when I taught third grade, we'd see something like this, and I would have these graphs for my students where they would graph their own, and what I loved about it is they'd go, yeah, that was right before Christmas, Mom, and I didn't do my best. And so they would own up to it, but I don't know exactly what happened in November, but at the same time, they are making lots of good progress, so.
Sixth grade really seems to be high.
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's
And that's a good thing because they should be,
And even with sixth grade, what we've done is a lot of the students have tested out, but we've looked at their iStation and there's a big group of them that aren't doing so well in comprehension. And 95% does have a comprehension component that they're getting that intervention as well.
oh, good.
So. And then if you want to keep going, but ultimately, if you know anything about me, I love looking at the data. I love looking at the numbers, but this is what's most important. This is where the meat is. This is a fourth grade sample for Mrs. Tolman's class. This student, she set some goals at the beginning of the year. This was August 20th, and she said, I'm excited about being a conflict manager. But then she said, I'm nervous about spelling. I want to be a better speller was one of her goals. Then if you scroll down, this is 5 days later. This was a prompt where apparently they had to write where they want to go in the world and why. She said, I want to go to Paris, France because of the Eiffel Tower. I would have a mansion. And I love the teacher's comment, great reason, right? So you can tell she's starting to improve. She has the capitals on her, her Paris and France. There's still mistakes there, but she's making progress. Then we're going to go to the next one. This was January 26th, and she talks about parent-teacher conferences. And the student says, at PTC, I think Mrs. Tolman will tell my parents that I've gotten better at spelling. I hope that Mrs. Tolman will tell my parents that I am the best at reading. I like what I like about fourth grade is Idaho history. It would be better if we learned by watching shows. So what you can see here though is that the student is getting that confidence. She's getting confidence in her spelling. She's getting confidence in her writing. She's writing a lot more, and ultimately she feels like she's the best at reading. And that's what it's all about. Are we helping our students get more confident in their reading skills, in any of their skills, so that they can become better and they feel that confidence in order to achieve it? So you can go on to the next one. Another thing I love to look at and talk to are the different teachers. When I talked to Joan Sidaway, I asked her some questions and just thought, what have you noticed? What can we do better? Or what have you seen that's going well? She said, in previous years, we would pull the special ed students in for math and reading, and we would basically held their hand and guide them through each problem. Now they are in the classrooms and are required to become more independent. This gives them more confidence. Teachers now also are accountable for their students in special ed. Before, I wasn't here, I have no idea, but I have been told that before, a lot of it was the special ed students were sent to another room. They were forgotten, if you will, by the teachers. I don't think intentionally, but at the same time, they were sent somewhere else. Now we're having the aides get the support inside the classroom where the teachers are there. They're more involved with the students. They're working with the students. And ultimately what I love is even our special ed students, they're getting the support they need, but they're becoming more independent and they're becoming more confident in their own work. So this is from Mrs. Blake, a third grade teacher, and she said, we have been looking for something like this for years. I love this program. She said, I love this program. Is consistent in every grade, and we know exactly where they're at. It is an easy program to follow. I love it. Another one was from Terry Smith. She's a kindergarten teacher out at Hamer, and she said, I like the program because it can target the hole that even fluent readers have. Lost my spot, sorry. Then once they master that, they can move on to where they need to be. I also like that there is time every day devoted for intervention. Every student gets it every day at their level. So ultimately, what's the future look like? Where are we at? Where are we going? We're going to continue to make progress with the students. We're going to continue to help them to develop a love for reading. That is what I would love to see out here in our district, is just helping them gain that confidence in their reading skills. But we also found the students that were most successful were the students that in their classroom, their teacher took the 95% and used it not only just as an intervention, but they incorporated it into their teaching. For example, if I was giving a spelling list or something, instead of just, here's your spelling list, go memorize it, good luck on Friday. Instead, I'm going, hey, look at this word. What do you notice about this word? Does it have a silent E in it? Okay, so what vowel sound is it? And they're incorporating those core phonics skills into their teaching. And so I was talking to Shane earlier about this, and I told him I really don't want to be a salesman for 95%. That's not my goal. But I'm passionate, and I know that this program has helped a lot of students. And they developed something, and if you want to go to the next slide, they have developed what's called a core phonics program, and this is for grades K through 3. And this is really what it is it provides a systematic and explicit word study and spelling. It reduces the number of students who need those interventions in the first place. Another thing it does is it helps fill the gaps where the core instruction doesn't meet the needs of the students. So all too often we have, for example, a core program that is working and there's things we like about it, but it's not filling in those holes, if you will. And the 95% that we have right now is filling in those holes, and it's doing an awesome thing. If you want to go to the next slide, this is where I know Carrie can relate to it. I think of Rexburg and the roads and how awesome they are over there. But we're so used to finding the holes, and that's what we've been doing this year. We've been taking the time to find the holes and see exactly where the students' holes are, and we're filling those holes. But my goal and what I would love to see in the future, and my hope is to just eliminate the holes in the first place. Then we don't have holes to fill because they won't be there. And that's what this core is going to do. It's going to help them ultimately not have the holes in the first place. Because right now they're doing amazing things. They're making lots of progress because we're finding the holes and we're filling them. But what we need to do is eliminate the holes in the first place so that only the students that really need it are getting those interventions, rather than you saw the numbers at the beginning of the year, we had almost all the students needed those interventions.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping in the future that some of these programs and different things that we have and will continue to hopefully get will help eliminate that. So in this program, this is just a brief overview really quickly of what it includes. It has teacher editions. It also has workbook consumables in it. It also has those manipulative chip kits, and it has them for each student so that they can have their own to do and practice their spelling. It also has digital presentations, which we can use our brand new TVs with, which is awesome. But you can also share those, which if we ever have to do remote learning again, there's a built-in option for that now. So, and lastly, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing the students to have these programs and for all that you do. I know it's a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice, but I want you to know that we appreciate it, that because of some of the decisions that you're making a difference in the students' lives. So.
Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson or follow-ups, comments?
I'd just like to say you're doing a terrific job getting these kids up to the upper levels. Thank you.
I wish I could take all the credit, but it's not me.
So when you make projections for next year, well, that will show quite a difference in the way and where you start. How many years do you think it'll be until you get where you want to be?
Mr. Johnson, do you want to speak on what your experience using this at your previous school when it came? Because I started when Mr. Johnson and I worked at the same school previously, I was there for year 1. And then you guys hired me out here. And then Mr. Johnson was able to stay there for year 2 and see that. If you wanted to speak a little bit on from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in the grade that because I was in 3rd grade. And so that very first year, we saw similar numbers where it wasn't, I think, as low because of COVID, obviously, but we saw similar numbers in that we had so many students that needed those interventions. And by the 2nd year, and especially in 3rd grade, 4th grade, there was less and less every year. And what I loved about it is we got to use other parts of 95, which we already have here, is the comprehension component and the vocabulary part. And with the vocabulary part, what was fun is with my 3rd graders, for example, we learned Latin and Greek prefixes and suffixes in 3rd grade. And it was so much fun because I would get there and I'd pull up a word, or I'd make up a word and I'd say, tell me the definition of the word. And they would go, oh, well, tele means distance. Vision is something that you can see. So you're seeing distance, you're seeing something from a distance. Does that make sense? And so, and then you could just I made up funny words too that just weren't even real, but it was fun because they learned Latin and Greek and learned how to break words apart and find definitions of those words already in 3rd grade. So ultimately, that's where we're going. And we've already started working on collecting things for that.
That's so exciting.
It's fun.
So exciting. And I thought we were in serious trouble because of the time that we lost.
And
It looks like you've almost,
I've heard that from a lot of teachers. They said, I did not think that we would be where we're at because of what was lost, but we are, and we're gonna continue to go. I love it.
You know, and I appreciate that. And yes, I want to sell, because so many times sitting in this position, in this chair, I hear so many negative things about this and that, this extracurricular, this needs to change. We are doing a fabulous job. Our teachers, our administration, we are working our tails off for these kids. And if you have any naysayers out there saying, we're just West Jefferson, that has to go. It takes time to move in a different direction, but yeah, it's not always just the test scores, because our kids could test poorly one day. We can't put all of our eggs in the ISAT basket, all of our eggs in the iStation basket and say, oh, we've helped kids. But these are the types of programs that we can do that.
And as they gain the confidence in their reading, this is going to help them the rest of their life. And that's what's most important. I don't want to just help a student become a reader for a year. I think everybody wants that. Every teacher wants that. They want to help change their lives and have an impact on it so that they become successful for the rest of their lives and want to continue to learn.
well, I'd like to send a note home with students to invite the parents to watch the board meeting.
I can send it on that, Leo.
I'm serious. Parents need to see this. And how many do we have on?
I'm not
3.
Well, that's our Zoom. That's
That's our
me,
Zoom.
Mrs. DeGraw, and Mrs.
Okay,
Jerry.
so can you
You're still there, right, Mrs.
I
Jerry?
can look right now on
Yeah,
YouTube.
I just think that all parents need to
There's
see
good,
this.
Yeah.
there's good things happening.
This is such a positive thing. The parents need to know about it.
We have 11 people watching right now.
But we generally have upwards to 60 to 80 people that go back and watch it
Right.
afterwards.
Yes, be a good idea.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thanks to Mr. Johnson.
And so as Mr. Johnson was saying, he doesn't want to be a salesman for 95%. I didn't put this on the action item part. Not that we need it. And a lot of times you will see educators jump ship and go sell products because they can make a lot more money selling products than they can teaching. I've already threatened Mr. Johnson that you can't not do that. But the action item for this, Mr. Johnson showed you the preview of the 95% supplemental program that goes to the core.
Yeah.
And this is one thing when a curriculum is in place, and we have Houghton Mifflin as our core curriculum, but those curriculums were designed, all of them are designed to try to hit everything And sometimes when you're trying to hit everything,
You hit nothing.
you hit nothing at all. And so the one thing about the 95%, and I mentioned this last year before we purchased the intervention and invested all the money into that. My background being in reading and in special education, this was the program that I wish I would have had when I was teaching special ed and teaching reading 15 years ago. Like, this is a thing that I don't know why more schools don't have this type of a program. But the core part is going to be really important because it's going to be so systematic that it's going to do exactly what Mr. Johnson talks about. So what this is looking like on the quote and proposal, so what we're asking for, is we are going to use literacy funds, which we have plenty of funds available. And we've been able to purchase already the comprehension and the vocabulary part that Mr. Johnson talked about. And so we can get the entire program for every K-3 classroom next year for $11,654. And so I'm just seeking board approval for that. The professional development, she gave us a quote that I did put on there. This is one that I'm going to follow back up with them. This would be if we could have in-person professional development, it's $6,881. This one will probably go down because I think we can do a virtual training here in our boardroom with that now that we're familiar already with it, which will reduce this cost a lot. So what we're asking for is just a motion to authorize the purchase of the 95% core curriculum. This isn't one thing that just Mr. Johnson and I sat in my office scheming, saying, what can we purchase? 95% came out with this in November. They, as we talked to the rep, it is new. We are so glad that they're doing this. This is the piece that's been missing from their intervention. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
I wish I had it when I was teaching too, because this would have helped. Like, I tried doing this on my own without it, but I wish we had this.
This is going to allow us to pick the pieces from our curriculum that best fits kids. And so we're not just teaching a curriculum, we're teaching kids. And so the motion to authorize this, but I was saying that I've sent it out to the teachers already, and some of our veteran teachers have given feedback. They said, absolutely, go for it. And so teachers are ready for this. Mr. Johnson, as a reading coach, is ready for this. Now we just need board approval for that. So,
Yep. So can I get a motion to authorize the purchase of the 95% core curriculum and professional development as needed for implementation?
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I think that will really help our kids quite a bit. Okay, and we'll go on to the next item on the action items, copier and printer contract.
okay. So our lease agreement with the previous company ended, and we were able to look at different options for the district. Some of them were lease agreements, and some of them were an annual contract. After Mr. Weeks and Mrs. Bingham looked at those and brought me a recommendation, we decided to go with Fenton's office supply for an annual contract. This will not hold us into a contract longer. And they gave us a great deal for an annual contract. One reason why I want to go in with an annual contract, the things that I've learned, lease agreements can be great, but there's also some hidden costs on that as well. And so this is what we moved into. Just if there's any questions, I can answer them.
I have one question, Mr. Williams. This contract, does it go from year to year or school year?
School year
to school year. So it starts from, say, 1st of July to 1st of July?
Yeah, so once we have this in place, we'll be able to keep that. I don't have to bring it back every single year, but because the contract will be over the $5,000 amount, it's just something that
We'll have to have it approved by the board.
Yeah.
May I get a motion to approve the funds for the printer copier contract?
Mr. Vice Chair, I move that we approve the funds for the printer copier contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded for the copier printer contract. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion is approved. Now we'll move on to the school calendar of the 2021-22 school year.
Right, so as we have explored the different calendar options for the upcoming year, the board voted in January to continue with the 5-day hybrid calendar. As superintendent, I've created a calendar based on feedback from teachers, parents, and board members. The 21-22 calendar can be followed for 3 years, and I have those in that process. So my recommendation is for a 3-year period. That would mean that in the fall of the 2023 school year, the superintendent, under the direction of the school board, will survey the teachers and parents concerning calendar options. That survey will be used to develop the 24-25 calendar and can be followed for 3 years. And so just going to, from our work meeting, just a little bit of feedback from, this initially, after the board meeting, I came out and I said, here's option 1 and here's option 2. I surveyed all of the teachers. 95% of the responses were for the option 2.
Yeah.
And so I just focused my attention on option 2. I thought it was a moot point to come in and say, hey, vote for one or the other.
Let's focus on the best one.
And then with option 2, I went to the PA meeting, got further feedback, and made some modifications to 2.1, presented that also to the teachers. And this was the feedback that we had, and this is what it's developed. And so with this proposal, go back up, there was one question during board meeting from Mrs. Rigby about putting in a parent-teacher conference in the spring. And so instead of taking up one of these days for a complete one, what we are going to do is really encourage our parents and teachers, if there are anybody that's not ready to graduate at that time or struggling in their 3rd trimester, that they could use the professional day in the afternoon on the 15th or the 6th to make an appointment with the teachers. That was one thing that the teachers felt good about that. This calendar is, let me just go down to the details of it, it's 159 days. On the school calendar, the 1st trimester will have 52 days, the 2nd trimester will have 55, and the 3rd will have 52. School will start at the exact same time and end the exact same time as this year. There will be early out days on this calendar. 8:10 was regular time to start. It'll be 4 hours of instruction. Will be done at 1 o'clock. Hamer will be out at 12:15. The green days that you have highlighted there will be the half days. So the first day of school on a Monday will be a half day. There'll be a day. At the end of that day, we will invite parents to come and have an open house with the teachers on that day. So they can either go home, the teachers will stay longer. So the kids can still ride the buses home if they want to. The parents will be invited to come back and have an open house with the teachers.
I can't remember, but didn't we decide there wouldn't be one at night?
Yeah, there won't be one at night.
Right, okay.
It'll be done by 4 o'clock.
Okay.
On that one. It's just a quick, come in and see the classroom, see where we're at. The professional days we'll go through. Our parent-teacher conference will be the first Monday of the week of potato harvest. This will be a time where we will have no teachers absent from that, unless they're ill, but knock on wood, but they shouldn't be absent for football games or extracurricular activities. The 1st trimester will end on the 23rd of November, starting the second trimester with 55 days, which was another thing that the initial option 1 did not have. Built into it, extra days if we do have cold days or weather permitting. The second parent-teacher conference will come on the middle of in January. It'll be on Monday, which is a holiday, but that will allow us to not have any other activities taking our teachers away from that. The end of the trimester will be on the 3rd. This will be a half day. I forgot to mention on these days, they will be out at 1 o'clock. An option that I want to have on these for our secondary schools specifically is to have an attendance final or a grades final where kids whose attendance is below a certain level will not have to be required to come on those days. And so this will be something that will allow that for attendance, or possibly what we did with our blended days, it might also be with assignments. So if kids have met their assignments and they're at a certain level, that will be one extra day where they have a quote unquote blended day on that. So that's one thing that I want to put out there early on for our secondary schools to look at. But also we could discuss that with elementary. Mr. H, you're here as well. So help remind me on that one, that on those last days of the trimesters, we might just have a complete blended day for everybody on that.
Yeah, that's one good thing that's come from the COVID. You know, there's been a ton of nasty blackness that has just come from it, but seeing how that we can mix up the day of doing these hybrid types of things, some of the teachers really were excited and had a lot of positive to say when we came into this 20/21 school year, and we had the time when we were on the hybrid of being able to bring some kids in particular, a couple of teachers in the lower grades. And so being able to have some flexibility to do things like that in the elementary, helping kids to read, and then on the junior high end, helping students to get their junior high credit where they might be behind and needing to, retake tests, work with teachers, and there's a lot of, that's one thing that we learned. There's a lot of things that we can do with time, with the calendar, if we set it up that way.
Yeah.
Mr. H, has the blended days, have they been utilized pretty well?
Yeah, I would say so at our building level. There are some, we worry that there's maybe some families that have misused the COVID time to not come to school when they could be coming to school.
That's what concerns me.
Yeah, and so, and obviously in any families that maybe have done that, those are families that aren't real strong in their value of education, maybe, or have that support of parents to help their child be a good student. So that's an extra kind of a double whammy if that's going on. And that, that's been tough. But to answer your question about have they been utilized, I've just seen a lot of good stuff in our building with that. So
yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
H.
you.
yeah.
One other consideration on these calendars, where the teacher contract days that are currently in our master agreement is 182 days. And as I surveyed the teachers, I gave them the option of keeping 182 days. And with this calendar, to have done that, they would have to come to basically a week of preparation before school and 4 days after the last day of school. So I gave them the option in our current agreement. The teacher contracted workday is 7 hours and 50 minutes. Why, I don't know. That's just what it was when I got here. And so when we took the time of that, a 7.83 hour workday on 182 days is equal to 178 days at an 8 hour workday. And so by doing that, the teachers initially gave the thumbs up on this type of a calendar to move the master contracts. We don't have to negotiate with them right now, but it would be something that we do change off that. I'll just say, this is what your survey said, this is what we're gonna do. And so that's why this information is down here at the bottom. This will be taken off on the last one. So that's all I have on that part to explain that. If there's questions or comments, I'll take those from the board that you guys move on.
Any comments? Well, we need a motion to approve the 2021-22 school.
Was Mrs. Cherry gonna
Maybe
comment?
Mrs. Cherry has a comment.
No, you answered my question, Mr. Williams. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the 2021-22 school calendar for a period of 3 years?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 2021-22 school year or school calendar for a time period of 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We move on to the bus purchase.
Okay. As part of our plant facility, we have in our plant facility the purchase of a school bus, and it's generally every single year that we do that with the plant facility. There's been a couple of years where we looked at it and talked with Mr. Pincock, and we didn't need that. But there is a bus need for this next school year, and the 06 travel/route bus was damaged. If you remember that windstorm that we had last year where it blew down the telephone lines, we would have canceled school, but weren't we in COVID at that time? I think we were. Yeah, we were in it, but unfortunately that bus was damaged during that wind accident. The bid to fix the bus was $24,000. So if we were going to go in, we would have paid $24,000 to fix it, but the value of the bus at the time was $7,000. So we went ahead and took the loss with insurance. The insurance paid out the $7,000 after the deductible. We were able to get a few $1,000s. We will be looking to surplus that bus and a couple buses later this summer, but we've been without a travel route bus. Now the 06 travel bus, that's one of the ones that's flat nosed and it has all the storage compartments underneath it. It was one that they used in the spring and in the fall, but it was also very cold and inefficient with its heater, had a lot of different problems. One thing that back then around 06, the rules with the transportation departments would only reimburse. There's a depreciation reimbursement program that exists with transportation. And so if we buy a bus that meets certain specifications, the state will reimburse a certain amount up to 85% of the total purchase. So when we buy these buses, we have to fund it up front, but we will start getting money put back into it with every one of these purchases. So, so for this year, the district's only been using the route buses for travel, and Mr. Pincock was able to find a bid for a new travel route bus, and it will be eligible for the state depreciation reimbursement, which pays 85%. And during our transportation audit, when we had the state transportation representative, he reviewed our finances, and he suggested that with the depreciation option, that we would be able to easily do a route or a travel bus at this time. The travel buses, as you can see, the cost for this one is a lot more. It's $150,000 compared to the $90,000 that we generally do. But it's a favorable time to do that because the rules changed to allow us to have the reimbursements available. Whereas in years past, if we were to go out and people say, well, why can't we just go buy a site bus or go buy a really nice travel bus that you see these other districts have? Those buses, the district foots the bill completely, and they do not fall within the reimbursement at all. And so, but if we can get one with all the safety specs and still have it, a little bit nicer, then we'll be able to take advantage of the depreciation option for that. And so that's what my proposal is that we will use our plant facility funds. And this will come not from this year's fiscal year, but from the next fiscal year. So will come from the plant facility amounts for the next fiscal year for that. Let me just pull up a couple of the different specs as we're talking about this quote. This also, as I was talking with Mr. Pincock about this, I'm not going to pretend to know all of that stuff. Right there, Mr. Schmidt, you might like all of that, but here's what I like: pictures.
So has Mr. Pincock, there's two different companies, Bluebird and International, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Has Mr. Pincock decided on which particular one?
I'm not sure if it says which one it is, but this is a bid that has been approved through the state already. Another district was able to have the same bid accepted, and so that allows us to go in because that was the best bid available. And so this would be a flat nose bus. It would have better storage underneath. It allows for 44 people to sit. There's more space in between it. You know, you can imagine the big football players that sit on a little tiny kid school bus. This would be a lot more comfortable. But with the price, because when I was asking, I'm like, well, 150,000, there were other options that they put into this that weren't usually on other quotes. And so how he explained it to me is in the past, like, we would have to go in and buy it, but then we would have to purchase it. So some of the things on this bus, our bus barn is too short. So they have to, you'd understand this, Tyson and Willie, deflate the air on the suspension to be able to even get into the shop.
They probably have air ride suspension.
Yep. And he said that this one has everything in place already to go in and just hit a button and it deflates it. Whereas all of our other ones, he has to go in and buy something to put on it to make that happen. So this is added into the cost. Other things that this one has is a really good heating system. The district that has already purchased a bus like this has talked to Mike. And so it would be easier to use this one during the winter without freezing everybody out. And then the bus driver, and so the bus driver's out there going, I'm gonna do this. It actually has air conditioning for the bus driver. So if I go on that, I'm sitting behind the bus driver. On that. So this is a good option for us. It is a lot more, but we have it in the budget for us to go on there. It's not like we're breaking the budget. It's just that we're investing in this. So questions?
So will this bus be used on a route?
It can be, but
Is that the plan for it? Is it strictly just going to be used for travel? And what travel? Is it for field trips?
Field trips, athletics, anything travel related. So ski trips, this one could be used for ski trips.
It also could be used for tours for college tours.
Yep. Anything with that. So this is not earmarked athletics. This is earmarked any trips that they have.
Wouldn't it be better not to take it on a route, to keep it?
Yeah, because the roads would be rough and it would.
You can, in an
Water wear and
emergency,
tear.
use it for a route. The reason why I put travel/route, because that's what allows the depreciation to be.
Yeah,
So what's being done with the old bus that was damaged?
We're gonna surplus that.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at the cost to fix that, my dream, because I know that you guys always look forward to the parade at Mud Lake, is to have one cleaned off the back. Oh, Mr. Nate is still here. So you guys can throw candy and shirts out while we rock.
It's so much better than that.
But
Sit in the hot tub that we put in the back of that thing and wave to people.
But
There, now we're talking.
Mrs. Rigby, I was talking with Mr. Pincock about when these are used on buses or on routes, they're a little bit longer and they're harder to get into some of the routes. So typically we would use this unless it was an emergency situation for a route.
Plus, it's a lot more wear and tear on the gravel roads. You know, you got $150,000 bus. I don't think you want them on a gravel road as little as you have to.
Sounds like you have some special cars, expensive cars, Mr. Schmidt.
When you have expensive stuff, you take care of it. Yep.
So thank you. Does that answer your question?
Well, if that's the last of the comments on that, may I have a motion to authorize the purchase of a new travel bus?
I make the motion to authorize purchase of a new bus.
Yep. Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Sounds like we're gonna get a new bus. Okay. We're on to certificate emergency school closure for February 19th of this year, 2021.
So as per Idaho code, when a school district cancels a day of school that was not on the regular school calendar, the district must certify the reason for the closing. Last Friday, sent out a text to the board letting you know that we had an issue here at school with teacher illnesses, and we were able to close that. Just for the information, districts are given 11 hours for weather-related emergency closures. This one didn't fall under the 11-hour weather-related because it was with sickness and illness, which is still an emergency closure. But that just means it's our hours that we missed are subtracted from the total amount, and we have plenty of time built in that this won't even impact it at all. We'll be way over the amount. So we just need a motion to ratify that. This will be the certificate of emergency closure. So I send this into the State Department, into their department. Mr. Weeks will go in and change the calendar in our IC upload. So this is just the process to do that.
May I have a motion to ratify the emergency closure of school on February 19th, 2021?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank
Make the motion to ratify the emergency closure of school on February 19th, 2021.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Rigby. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, on to policy 3000 series, second reading.
So our board has been reviewing the policies for several work meetings and even the last board meeting. And here's the second and final reading for these policies. You can see these are the policies that are in place. Do we have any comments or suggestions on that? Because other than that, it's going to be just the board to approve that.
I'm going to give to Carrie some punctuation,
Oh, just,
Perfect.
so I don't go through that, but there were a couple of places like on the bottom of 3085, page 5.
$30.85.
3085, page 5.
Okay.
The last sentence.
Page 5.
What is it
Yeah,
trying?
keep going. She's talking about the procedural one.
Keep going.
Yep.
2, 3,
Oh, P, I should have said P on the back of that. Yeah.
That's okay.
4, 5. This one?
Okay, that last sentence reads, ensuring that the parties can respond to the evidence prior to the conclusion of the investigation.
What are you saying?
Yeah, you're right there.
Was I on this?
Yeah, right there.
It's the second to last on that.
Okay. Ensuring. Okay. I'm moving. Thank you.
It's not a complete sentence and I don't know what it means.
Let's see. So this is saying, so we just need to put a semicolon after report because it's their ability to respond to the evidence.
Okay.
Okay, you'll just mark that with a semicolon, we'll get that fixed.
Okay. That's all it needs. On page 13,
The same one.
same one, it goes on and on.
It does.
That was a really fun one to rewrite.
A lot of pages.
It does.
I'm still not sure what I'd hate to be involved in this.
Okay.
Halfway down, right after H.
Yes.
There's a sentence and then the determination becomes final either.
Either filing or an appeal.
Okay, we just need to. Let's see. I'll look at the original writing of
Okay, yeah,
that
something's missing.
and see what's there. Do you have that marked on your paper for
I
you?
do.
Okay.
Just need.
Just some typos.
Yeah, it's just the typos.
Okay, I
So
thought it was maybe some missing words.
there might be.
Oh, and then 308519 at the very top. Does that sentence make any sense?
Recognition.
Mhm.
Grievance proceeding.
Maybe you can rework that one too.
Yeah, at no
It
time
doesn't-
during this grievance procedure, the evidence that is privileged, we need to just add, be released unless the person holding the privilege waives said privilege.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
what's
it
missing
didn't
there.
make any sense to
Yep.
me, so if you know how to fix it, that's good. Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
Good
The
find
rest are
on that one.
just, the rest are just a lot of.
Okay, so it's just the typos. Okay,
Yep, so it doesn't look like there's anything on substance or.
Mostly punctuation.
Yep.
Just some typo corrections needed.
Punctuate, yeah, the punctuation more than typos. I don't think they're exactly typos, but
Okay.
there's just lots of things that need to be fixed.
perfect.
Okay, consistency.
Okay, so may I get a motion to approve the 3000 series policies as corrected?
Yep,
I make a motion to approve the 3000 series policies as corrected.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Cherry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Burtonshaw. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. We're off to learning management system. Otis.
all right. So I alluded to this in the superintendent report. Our school district has been using Unified Classroom as its learning management system, or LMS. You'll see that acronym used. This system is supported by Power School, which the district uses for our Student Information System, or SIS. And so we were informed during the summer that Power School purchased another LMS and would be moving away from Unified Classroom. And so initially we just considered going with that other LMS because it was Power Schools. But as we've been transitioning to standards-based grading and exploring mastery-based options, we found that Unified Classroom through Power School does not allow us to clearly communicate to students. So if you remember back to the first parent-teacher conferences and first report cards, I've shared with the board that we know that our LMS right now is not doing a great job of saying, this is what we're doing. Our teachers are a little bit frustrated, our parents are a little bit frustrated. This is going to address that issue. And so because we started having those issues, I started asking the questions, well, is the program that we're going to use or thought we were going to use, is that one the best? And so we compared that one against Otis. And luckily, when we've had our different meetings, Mrs. DeGraw, whose children that go to Madison, now that we have one here, West Jefferson, but she has children in Madison using the LMS that we were thinking of going to. She was able to help compare and contrast the two difference from the viewpoint as a parent. Mr. Tolman, who we've hired this year with COVID to help with not only our special ed, but also to help where his specialty is on online teaching. And he was also involved with this, as was Mr. McDonald, Mr. Harrelson, myself, and even some of the teachers at the high school and elementary level during some of our professional meetings. So we've been able to look at this from the side of teacher, parent, administrator, and Otis is the format that we want to go with. So the company's name is Otis. This is not meant to be an overview of it, but what it allows us to do is to better communicate standards-based learning. It has an option for the grading to be both standards-based and traditional-based, which will be perfect for us as we're transitioning into that system. There's a lot of different things that none of these programs are going to be the magic bullet on that. There's still a lot of work that we have to do with training our teachers, training our parents, but I'm excited about this option moving forward. This was a company that was developed by teachers. So the person that developed this program was not only a talented teacher, but they also understood how to build things like this. I have no idea. So they experimented with their kids in his class on how to do this. So he built it in a way that made sense from the seat of a teacher on how we can communicate. I feel like that other programs, not saying that they I think they lack that. The way that they're just built, they're built more from how a computer guy thinks. And a lot of times computer people don't think the same way as some teachers. And so, I'm excited about this. The purchase of this would be $8,000 for that, and it's gonna be less each year. We don't have to approve it every single year, but since it's our first time going, I just wanted to report to the board that this was a decision that we made, but we do need approval for it to move forward. So does the board have any questions on OTIS or LMS programs in general?
Has it been working well?
We are, when we looked at it, here's the thing that's been working well with this company. When we ask for something, we get it, just like that. When, with the other company, Mr. Weeks would call them and we were just another number. And we couldn't get the customer support. So customer support, one option that they do well on this program is they have like a chat help box where teachers can immediately just go to that. And a frustration that teachers have when they get programs is they come in, they get the big spiel, the training at the beginning of the year, and then the company's like missing in action. You don't see them ever again. This company here, the teachers, if I'm sitting at my desk, I don't have to call Mr. Weeks. I can say, hey, how do I do this? And they have people that will help with that. So we are not going to, this will be for implementation in the next school year. So the plan right now, Mr. Smith, is to train teachers, have a slow rollout, have some of the teachers that are willing to come in. They call it a sandbox to come in and play and figure out how it works. My goal is to utilize professional development funds to pay teachers to come in during the summer, to be trained, to start setting up their classrooms in this. My goal eventually is that all of our classes will have everything that the kids need to do online available, or at least the main standards. And so as we continue to explore mastery-based or standards-based, this is something that could be used for helping students that need to have credit recovery. So if I'm a math teacher and I have my core standards in there that need to be done, a student that doesn't pass the first time could be enrolled into a study skills class the next trimester, but they can go back into this format, complete that, and then be given credit for what they missed. And on the flip side, if there's a student that says, I want to finish this early and do something else, they could go, and those are the decisions we haven't made yet as we're exploring mastery-based. But those are the potential options that we have as a district.
So I'd like to know more about this. If I read through this, because I must have missed it on my studies and video.
Yeah, so this is one that we've talked about with the LMS on that. I can get you more information for it. But this is the LMS that all of the administration and the teachers have said that they would like to go to.
One of the advantages that you haven't mentioned about this program is, one, they have technical support to have help teachers upload their current items that they want to have uploaded. The other thing that's great is they're giving them access early. Typically, when you roll out a new LMS, they're given access to it
In July.
in August normally, and they're expected to have it ready
Yeah,
by the time school
this company
started.
is going to give us 4 free months to get set up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, and maybe if you're asking Mrs. Perkins to feel like you can vote for this, on one hand or another,
Well,
is there something I can maybe help you with before, so you can feel more comfortable with that?
well, I think that recommendation is good, but for myself, I would like to know more.
And so as I get more information when it comes to as we get the training materials, I'll be happy to pass that on to the board members.
Okay.
And we could possibly even have more information. I'll reach out to the Otis. I wasn't able to get a hold of the team for the transition. I was hoping they had like a little presentation for school boards.
Be
Like,
nice.
That would be nice.
just so they can do that, and I'll find that to let, and be able to show that, because we're gonna need to train teachers and parents
Okay.
on this.
Okay.
And so those are things that we don't have those right now, but we will be doing that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the purchase of Otis for the school district's LMS?
Mr. Vice Chair, I make the motion to approve purchase of Otis for school district's LMS.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. It's been moved and seconded to purchase the Otis for the school district's LMS. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. That's all the action items we have. Now we go to informational discussion
So-
items.
I have these on here just in case the board wants to discuss any more. It's nothing, really no new information for the board. 5.1, just for everyone's information, we did have an annual safety meeting with the board in executive session. This helped give our safety committee a direction, but with the administration will continue with the things that the board talked about on that. Any other comments on?
Jay on the Hill, just a lot of legislation, just trying to move along. It's slow going.
Yeah, I'd like to have been able to watch more. I felt like the House and the Senate, their presentations were both the same. It was David, doing the same presentation. And so I'd like to have seen something else besides two of his presentations.
I can pass that on to the ISBA and maybe we can mix things up a little bit
Yeah.
for next year, make it more.
Didn't you guys feel that way? I mean,
I'll admit that was my anniversary and I didn't watch anything.
wow.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Well, you probably needed a day off.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Was there anything that those of you that watched it need to bring to my attention or anything like that?
Well, I didn't learn anything new. Did you guys?
The only thing that's really going on is the August election dates. I think it passed out of the House and it's gonna go to the Senate.
That
Committee
particular
now.
day, we didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah, but in the GAC meetings, the government,
That's where I'd like to have
Fair.
heard. I'd like to have listened to those arguments and presentations, but this was, it wasn't very valuable to me.
but anyway, that one resolution is going to the Senate now, and so it'll be debated. So we gotta try to fight that off because we need the August date to be able to vote on levies and,
It
Bonds.
sounded like it was gonna pass. to me.
well,
In the House,
yes,
yes.
the House passed it,
I
so
don't,
it's going on to the Senate.
didn't you feel like the Senate was gonna pass it too well?
It's still a debate.
Okay.
So we're trying to fight that off, and the ISBA members are really working hard on that.
You know, a little bit of background on that one, and with our superintendent meetings that I attend. The history of the August elections before, I guess back when it was termed the Wild West of school elections, because schools just go and plunder all the taxpayers on elections. School districts used to be able to hold election whenever they wanted. So the school board could get together and say, let's run the bond next week, and they could run it whenever. The school districts would hold their own election, they'd have their own voting process, and the counties didn't
Weren't involved.
weren't involved with any of the process. And you can see when I look at the history of our bonds and levies, there were times I'm like, oh, we're having one in September, now we're having one in October. And so the pendulum swung, the conversation came to say, school districts have way too much power to put taxes out, to have taxes out there. So what they came to a consensus was, let's put it to 4 times per year and have the counties be involved. And these are the times that they will do it. The promise at that time was, we're not gonna touch it. And so now changing to now school districts. And so I've reached out to representatives on this, sharing my concern about it. And some were favorable for that and some disagreed. The ones that don't feel like schools need it are saying that our county people need more time to prepare for the federal election in November, which, was there a problem this year? Did we have any problem in Idaho on any of our elections? No, they're looking at places like other states and they're thinking, oh, let's get scared about that and bring it here. That's my opinion. I'm speaking opinion right now. But it would have been detrimental for several different districts this last year to not have had the August election option. Like you can read in some of the news outlets, Middleton, for example, their supplemental levy did not pass. They had a lot of turmoil on the board and in their at their district level, and their levy didn't pass by like 1 or 2, and it was like $2 or $3 million that didn't pass. And so, can you imagine what they would have had to have done if they didn't? And they ran it again in August, and it passed. They would have had to have slashed and cut and done so many different things to make that budget. And so I think it's short-sighted, this is me personally, it's short-sighted if that's taken away. I can't see the pros of that being taken away, except for the fact that I don't like schools. That's my opinion. I only want to take that away because I don't like schools.
Yeah. In my opinion, it really hurt a lot of school districts to take that August
But we'll
vote
see.
option away. And then there's talk like if they take the August one away, what's to say they wouldn't work on maybe taking the March one away? So,
Both of them, and as I've shared with the representatives on the House side, the August election, when I talk to those that run bonds, is the ideal time to maximize the money that you get, because it allows you to go through the bond process, allows you to get the architect stuff all fine-tuned, and then they go and bid at the time where historically construction costs are lower. And so that way you're maximizing, like if you're really wanting to do something that's for a benefit of the taxpayers paying the money, let us maximize the dollars that we have. But again, the counter wasn't what's best for schools, it was what's best for the county's election officials to be able to handle a federal or a national election. Which to me,
that's their job, they should be able to handle that.
So, but I appreciate that. I'm glad that you guys were, it's one thing that I appreciate our school board taking time on the.
Nedra is an alternate on the executive board. If you want to listen in on the meetings every Friday at 1, if you want.
They send them to me.
Oh, do they?
So
Yeah.
most of the time I'm listening to what you're doing.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
Yep, they are really a lot of information in those meetings.
So our plant facilities and maintenance summer projects, this is the same list that we had at our work meeting, so this is nothing new for anybody. As we bring these up, these were ones that Mr. Soderquist came up after consulting with administrators. And so we do not have to vote on any of this because we'll be utilizing the funds from our plant facility. If we do have something that is above the $5,000 limit, I will bring it to the board for a ratification vote on that before we move on it. So we'll still follow board policy on any of those, but people can look, these are the ones that came out to utilize our plant facility, which leads us to the next two with the supplemental levy and the bond discussions. I'll hit the supplemental levy because that is coming up here in March. This is on our website, and I shared this with the school board earlier, so this is really for the information of those that are watching. And it's straightforward on why we are asking an increase in our supplemental levy, specifically with the 8% increases in insurance. The district is taking some steps to try to mitigate some of those, but it wasn't just this last year's 8%. It was 5% the year before, and 6 and 4%. So when we've had the supplemental levy, it was little by little by little. And with the amount of support units that we've had, this will go in to help correct it, so our funds are not going into the red, and it will keep our district with the ability to attract teachers to come to the district and pay competitive salaries, which we're able to do right now.
And I think one important thing to know is that we are at bare bones. We would be hurting very badly if this doesn't pass. And it's responsibility. I'm not going to get on a soapbox, but it's everybody's responsibility to see that we have the things we need to teach your children. And it's everybody in the community. It's their responsibility, your responsibility.
So I will be sharing this information on the next PAW meetings. We're going to advertise that as a place for people to come and ask questions about the supplemental levy. Those that are watching it, this is the information. It's really, this is what it is, and this is where it's going to go. Supplemental levy just needs 50% plus one vote. The history of the supplemental levies, and this is one, I'm not going to turn the time over to Mr. H, but he was there as a teacher during this time where the school district had to make a lot of cuts, and we had teachers leaving the school district. The reason why we first ran the supplemental levy in 2012 was a recommendation from the community. And so the 300,000 has been great. The 360,000 is to make sure, because we are going in the wrong direction with insurance costs that are increasing. If we could have guaranteed that nothing increased in 2012, you'd be able to continue with that. But supplemental levies, you can see the history of it. It's not just West Jefferson. When Idaho shifted away from using property taxes to help fund the local schools and replaced it with sales tax, this resulted in the loss of district funding. And 92 out of 116 Idaho school districts are needing to obtain local supplemental levies. And so that's just the reality. I was looking in Idaho at news the other day, and it had that. I was disappointed in the way they advertised it, because they advertised it. They went ahead and added the 360 to 720. So it said West Jefferson is asking for 720,000.
That should be.
It was misleading.
Yeah.
It was definitely misleading. I was looking at it, I'm like, you're not painting that in a, really we're asking for an increase of 60,000. And we look at that, it goes back to the tax rate from what the district has, changes year to year based on what's asked or where we're at with paying off the bonds. This year we're at an all-time low in the district at 237. We're asking just to go back to last year at 261 for this portion. And so again, the 10-year average on all of ours is 350 per 100,000 of taxable assessed value. And so keep my fingers crossed. We've sent out a flyer. We will send something home with the students just to say, remember to go out and vote. I told the teachers, if you live in the district, this is one you might want to vote for.
Yeah. We have one of the lowest tax rates for these levies of a lot of districts around the area. It's way lower than most other districts.
So we're going to wait for the supplemental levy to play out before I move on the bond. But again, these are just attachments to the bond discussions that we've had in previous meetings. Nothing new on that. After the results of the supplemental levy are in, we will start having meetings on the bond. I have heard a lot of positive discussion from people about the possibility of this plan. And the biggest part of this plan keeps in mind of how can we one day have a new high school when we can only borrow $12 million at a time. And that's the biggest thing that we have to look at. And people say, well, you're not growing. Why would you need to build something new? Well, if I do my math right, every single year that we pass, those buildings get 1 year older. And when that happens, there's gonna be a time that the buildings expire, whether we grow or not. And if we can't just at the drop of a hat build a brand new building all the way through, we have to have a plan in place to say, well, what can we do to have a plan instead of just adding on little bits and pieces. And so I know I'm speaking to the choir here with this group, but once we, as I've received feedback from that, people are saying this is a plan they feel they can get behind, even with the different things that we've talked about.
Mhm.
And so I think the people that are always against it are going to say no. But I want, we have a couple people here in the audience tonight. I'm going to have these board meetings or these community meetings, and I hope that if you're in favor of this, like you're willing to come and show that support. If not, if we don't have that type of support before our June meeting, I'll probably come to the board and say, we're going to move to just do remodels, which is almost the same amount that we would be doing for the big projects. And that's the part that's difficult to look at. The increase for just a remodel bond is almost the exact same as building new projects and remodeling. It's going to be both, building new projects and remodeling. Every 5 to 8 years, we're going to have to remodel anyway, regardless of what happens. Whether we just hunker down and just say, let's just not change a thing and keep everything old, or we build new, it's not going to change.
Mrs. Cherry, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, I hope people are listening. It really is just that simple, that these buildings aren't going to last forever. So.
Yeah, I think the new building was what, the
new gym.
New gym that's like 22 years old. We still keep calling it new.
I think it's closer to 24.
Yeah, okay.
It keeps me young though, because I was a senior when it was new. And it just, I think we name it the new gym forever.
Yeah.
Like even if like 50 years down the road, if we build a new high school with other gyms, I think we always call that one the new gym.
That's our new gym.
So, just as for information, next Ed Foundation meeting March 3rd. That'll be here in this location.
Yep, Carrie, get all the information out to the teachers.
Yep, I've
so
already emailed
they
the
can
teachers
come
and let
in
them
and
know.
make their requests and help the kids.
And the next POM meeting will be that same day, an 8:30 a.m. and a 6 p.m. meeting. And so that we'll be discussing the supplemental levy as one of the mainstays on that meeting as well. We will need to schedule a work meeting March 10th. Thank you, board members, for all your tough work and everything. But along the lines, the March 10th work meeting will, if we can't have the policy done, we might jump into the next policy just so we can try to stay on track. Other things on that would be looking at fee increases potentially. I've been meeting with Mr. McDonald, Mr. Hadley on the impact of the COVID stuff with our athletics departments, getting recommendations on where we need to go with being able to run those programs. And then looking at that also bond discussion as well, moving to the next step with that. So that's all I have. Are there any questions from the board for me that I can answer?
No. I'd like to just make one comment. I made a few mistakes in the meeting. I apologize for that. We take for granted how well our Madam Chair, Mrs. Cherry, conducts these board meetings. And so we gotta all thank her every time we see her. We wish her to get well.
Well, thank you.
And not to put any salt in the wound, people can go back and watch your mistakes over and over. And
That's why I have to apologize for them. No, I cut Mr. Williams short on his super's report. I apologize for that.
No worries.
I kind of spaced it after the art teacher.
That was awesome. You're like, I don't need to hear Mr. Williams anymore. She did a good job.
Yeah, she did such a good job. Let's move on. So I guess we'll adjourn the meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, Mrs. Wrigley, thank you. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Burtenshaw. All in favor?
I
I